and welcome to my new video on this channel, Free Code School, where I aim to teach Python programming to everyone for free. So this is the part 5 of the Python tutorial series. Before this, I have made like 5 more videos, which is included in this playlist of Python tutorial series. So if you have not watched those videos and if you want to learn Python, do go through those videos. So the link to all those videos. So there is a playlist for that. The link to that playlist will be there in the description. And also you can connect with me on Twitter, LinkedIn, and Telegram. All the links are in the description, so you can check out the links there. And in this video, we'll be writing basic programs in Python. So before this, I have taught list, variables, for loops, and many more concepts before this strings, before this video, like in other parts, like first 5 parts of this tutorial series. So Python is not about just about learning syntax. Any programming language is not about just Python. Any programming language is not all about just learning the syntax. Because after learning the syntax, you need to write programs. Writing programs is the most important part of any programming language. So you do not learn a programming language to learn the syntax or by heart the syntax. That's just a small part of, I will say, programming. The main aim of programming is to write actual code or code that actually adds value, right? So you have to write those types of code. So it's better to practice some, I will say, examples or programs at this moment of time because we have learned some concepts, right? We know how to declare variables now. We know how to declare a string, how to write some, like use some functions like inbuilt function, Python inbuilt functions. We also know how to define a list, how to use a list. We also know how to use for loop. So we do know a lot of things now, right? After that, like before, after covering the 5 videos, the five videos before this. So let's practice some questions and try see like how do we write programs in Python. So you will get an idea of like how to think logically and try to convert your ideas into Python code. So that's what my main aim is with this part 5. Or also I will cover more examples like in the future. This is just the starting point. And for this, if you see, I have done the setup here. So I'm again using the same website, repl.it. But one thing I have done differently here is that I have also logged in here. So I have created one account here on this website. So if you have not logged in, you will see a button for signing in, right? So do provide your email and password and do sign it, and you will see this type of interface here. Now what I will do is I will create a new REPL here. So where why I am signing in here. So my main aim is that it's not that you should just write code and forget it, right? Since you are learning Python for the first time, it's also good to save the code. Whatever code you are writing, it's better to save it so that in the future, right, whenever you want to revise the concepts or anything, you can check out here like what code you have written, and you'll understand. Okay, I mean this was the concept, and okay, now at that moment you will remember it. Okay, so what I will do is I will create a new REPL. Of course, I will select Python here because Python is, so there are different programming languages there, but of course we are practicing in Python. Then I need to give a name to my, basically this folder, what name I should give. So maybe anything you can give, maybe Python, codes, anything you can give. It's your, I mean, whatever you want to give. I will create the REPL. So you should see the same interface now. After creating the REPL, you should see the same interface as you were seeing before. The only difference being that now you will be able to save programs there, so that in the future, if you want to access those, you can always come to this website, log in, and access these programs. So you can see, so basically all the Python programs, if you want to save it, you should save it with file name .py, because that's how you save the Python files by .py. So this, if you see this example of this is main.py, but what we will do is we will create new files, execute the code, and run the code and save it. Okay, you will see how I go through this. Again, I will change some settings here that I always do. Stacked is okay. Okay, the settings are already there here, already saved here, so no need to change it. Okay. So let's now start. So this was a long introduction actually, but yeah, let's now start like looking at the maybe programming part. But of course, before that, there are some guidelines. This is the first time where I'm teaching you how to write programs. Okay. So see, for every program, there will be a problem statement. There will be a problem statement that defines what you want to do in the program. Right? So you need to read that problem statement very carefully because that's the most important part. right? If you do not read the, so basically, it's like any other. See, take example of maths. So what happens in maths? You are given a problem and you need to solve. You need to solve it, and in that case also you need to read the question carefully. Now also take some notes from that question that are important, right? You do that, right? For anything, if you are solving question in physics, maths, or anything. So the same applies for Python. So whenever you are given a problem statement, read that carefully, take point of important notes that are given in that question, and then proceed. So of course, the first point is read the question carefully. What they're asking you to do, read that carefully. Also, do not see my solution immediately. Of course, I will first tell you the problem statement and then I will code here. But for you, what I will say is try to do it on your own. Okay? Do not see my solution. I'm not telling you that, I mean, see, how I will tell you is that, okay, do something like this. So you try to do the question on your own, okay? Take time, 30 minutes, 1 hour. Even after 1 hour, if you are not able to think anything or not able to come up with a solution, then it's okay to see my solution, how I am solving it. But if you do get some idea, try doing it, because see the happiness you will get or the satisfaction you will get when you see the problem statement and solve the problem on your own. Like how much happy you will be, right? Because you are able to solve the problem on your own after learning the concepts, right? So that's why I'm telling you to pause the video once my question is given. Okay, once I have given the question, try to solve it on your own. If you are not able to, then see my solution. Even if you are able to solve the solution, but again see my solution and verify it. Now, how to write your own code. In this, there are 3 steps I will tell you. First is, of course, reading the question carefully. Then the next part is very important, is thinking logically. So programming, I mean, so most of people think that it's just about maybe design, I mean, writing some code for web development and everything. But you need, so see, the main intention of programming from my viewpoint is to solve problems, solve real life problems. Okay, it's okay to like the problem can be solved in many ways, but I mean for everything you need some like logical thinking every time, right? So that's why it's first better to not directly jump and start writing code. That should not be the first goal. That okay, you see the problem and start writing code. That should not be the first goal. The first goal should, like the first step here should be read the question carefully. Second step should be think logically. Okay, what is the solution for that? Think logically in your mind. Try to take notes, like try to maybe write some sample code on the paper first. Okay, then once you are like at least 80% or 90% sure that okay, this is a kind of good solution or this may work. It's not that okay, it should work. But even if you think that this solution can work, start coding and see what is happening. If you get some errors in the code, try to fix those and again try to run the code. That's how you will learn coding. It's not, I mean, coding. I mean, so coding. I mean, coding. I will say is kind of, I mean, gives you magic powers. I mean, right. So once you start solving problems, you think yourself like a magician, right? Very powerful. I mean, but you see, it's not that you will become magician or powerful in 1 day, 2 day, or 1 month. Even not in 1 month. Even not even in 1 year maybe. Because for me, when I was in college, it took me almost kind of 2 years to like learn a lot of programming. So it takes time. I mean, I'm not telling that see in 2 years you will learn a lot, but of course in first year also you will learn. It's not that you will not learn. Okay, in 2 years you will learn a lot. That's what I mean. Yeah. So okay, so much. I mean, I have explained here, but this is the first programming video. So just I want to tell you like you should not be mistaken here, right? You should follow whatever I am telling here so that you grow. I mean, like your programming skills, right? They improve over the time. Okay? And last one is basically once you have written a piece of code on the paper and you think that it's right, or even if you think that's logically right, start implementing that on the start writing that in Python. Okay. Now, of course, the last and the most important thing, practice, practice, practice. Okay. It's not that you practice 10 questions and okay, I am expert in Python. No. Practice as many as you can. Practice 1 question daily or 2 questions daily. Practice 100 questions. Like every day you practice 1 question, solve it. Do this for 100 days. Okay. That's how you will improve. So it's all about practice there. So there are 10 programs here that basically there are 10 problems to solve here. And I will solve, of course, all the problems here. But as I told you, first, once you listen to my question, try to think on your own, try to implement it first on your own. Okay? This is the first program here, that is program 1. It's quite simple actually. So you are given two integers a and b. Okay, in a and b, two integer values are stored. It can be same or different. Okay. Now you have to find the quotient and remainder when you divide a by b. So it's simple. Okay. So if you see the output here, so the input can be like a equal to 4 and b equal to 2. Let's say in a 4 is stored and in b 2 is stored. In this case, the output should be quotient equal to 2 and remainder equal to 0. Q is for quotient, R is for remainder. And if the input is a equal to 3 and b equal to 6, in this case, quotient will be zero point 0.5 and remainder will be 3. So that's the basic math, right? How do you divide a number? When you divide a number, what is the quotient? What is the remainder? That's what this question is asking. Okay. So the first thing is, of course, read the question carefully. So now you know that what the question is asking you to. The question is asking you to, when you divide a number, basically a by b, what is the quotient and what is the remainder? That's what the program is asking. So, okay, as I told you, for the first thing is basically to write it on a piece of paper maybe, but this is a simple problem. So basically this is asking you to A divided by B. For this, what is the quotient and what is the remainder that you need to output? And we know, like in Python, how do you find the quotient? Okay, it's quite simple how to find the quotient. I've already explained you in my previous videos. So if you have A and B, basically, if you have like A and B variable, A divided by B will give you the quotient in Python. Okay. Now, how will you get the remainder? Okay, for remainder, the operation is A modulus B. This will give you the remainder. These are very basic operations that you should always remember, like how to divide a number, how to multiply two numbers, how to subtract two numbers, how to add two numbers, how to find the power like A raised to B, how to do that. These all you should remember always. And how to basically this also, how to find the remainder. Like you have to use this modulus operator to find the remainder. Okay. Now we know like how to find the quotient and remainder. Now it's quite simple problem. Let's solve this problem. Okay. So we will take any input. I mean, A and B value, you can take anything, but your output should be right. That's what our aim is. So let's take A equal to 4 and B equal to 2 at the first row. Okay. Now what is the quotient? Quotient is, we know A divided by B. Okay. What is the remainder? Remainder is A modulus B. Now we need to print this. Okay. Because of course we need to display the output, right? So we will do print. I will use the F string. I will write Q equal to quotient and R equal to remainder. Okay. I will close this and I will run this program. Let me run this. So you see the output is quotient equal to 2.0. Of course, the answer here is in, because as I have told you, whenever you do a division operator, the quotient will be always be in the float like 2.0 or something. It will not be integer. But of course, you can convert it into integer if you want to. And remainder is 0 because 4 divided by 2, the remainder is always 0. Of course, what you can do is you can convert this into, since we want integer as a quotient, if you want to, it depends on you. And sometimes we do not want, because sometimes it's like, let's take another example, maybe 3 by 2. Okay, no, 3 by 6. This, in this case, what will happen? Okay, quotient equal to 0.5 and remainder equal to 3, right? Because if you divide like 3 by 6, we know that the quotient will be 0.5 and remainder will be 3. We know that from basic maths. So we do not need to convert this quotient into integer, because quotient can be like floating also, right? So it's better to keep as whatever it is. You can take more examples. I mean, like anything, 16 by 4, and anything you can do. I mean, it's on your list. You can take more examples and see the quotient and remainder. You should see this answer should be right in this case. So this is a simple program to find a quotient and remainder when you divide one number by another. This is program one. Of course, as I told you, do pause the question when you see the question. Try to do it on your own. Okay. Second program is again quite simple. First, understand the question and then you can pause it. So given a number n, okay, n can be any number. It's a number basically. It's an integer. It can be 1, 2, 100, 1 million, 2 million, anything it can be, right? N can be anything. Now you have to check if the number is odd or even. So this number n that is given, of course, in the program, you have to check whether the number is odd or whether the number is even. And of course, the example is given here. Like if the value of n equal to 2, you should print even. If the value of n equal to 5, you should print odd, because 2 we know is even number and 5 we know is odd number. Now let's see how to do this. Of course, now I am going to solve this problem, but do pause the video, try to solve on your own this problem, then see my solution. That will be better for you also, okay, for your learning, right? So, okay, again, I will go to my, so basically the iPad here. This iPad is quite useful for learning and for teaching, I will say. Okay, so just I have so what the question is asking is there is a n is given, n can be any number. It can be any number. It's basically an integer here. Can be anything, 1, 2, like 5, anything. It can be any number. Sorry. Okay, it can be any number. Now, our basically aim is to find whether this number is even or whether it is odd. So how do you define even or odd number? So I told you, first think logically what the question is asking. Then you need to find out, okay, next question will be how do I find out where a number is odd number or even number? But that's quite simple math if you remember. So what is the even number? Okay. So even number is a number. If you divide, so basically even number is that number. So if you divide this number by 2, the remainder should be 0. So it should be exactly divisible by 2. That's even number. What is odd number? Odd number is basically if you divide it by 2, remainder will not be 0. It will be anything. Like it can be 1, it can be 3, it can be 5 or anything. Remainder can be anything. But it will never be 0 when you have odd number. Take examples of even number like 2, 4, 6, 8, anything. Now, if you divide this all numbers by 2, you know that the remainder will be 0, right? In case of odd numbers, anything like you can take 3, 5, 7, you know that when you divide these numbers by 2, the remainder will be not 0, something else. It can be 1, 2 or any number. So you know logically now how to find this. But the next part is how to implement this in the code. Now we know that, okay, how to find it. How do you write this in code? That's very important. Now you see the logic here. So I have taught you if else statement before this. So how do I think this? Okay, I know that if a number is divisible by, so if you divide a number by 2 and the remainder is 0, the number is even. I should print even. Otherwise, of course, otherwise, and if this is not the case, if this is not the case, if the remainder is not 0, otherwise print odd. This is the logic that I have in mind. But I know that this can be done by if else statement, because if something, do this, otherwise do this. That's what if else statement is. So I will think about if else statement here. Okay. Now, of course, how to write the code in if else statement. So I will write, if you remember the if syntax, if then there is a conditional statement after this. What is the condition here? Of course, if n, now how do you find the remainder? Modulus operator. 2. Now, what is the condition here? If n, of course, the remainder basically divided by 2, now equal to 0. This is the condition here. This is our condition here. As after if, there is a condition, right? But if this condition is, of course, either this condition will be true or either this condition will be false. Now, if this condition is true, we know that what this number is even. So what we will do is print even. I'm just writing this code on piece of paper. Otherwise, of course, we will go to the else part. Else is for otherwise. If this does not happen, if this case is false, we will go to the else part. Of course, we know that the number is, in this case, is odd. This is our logic. And this is what I have thought logically. I have written this on piece of paper. Let's try to run this because I think that this is logically correct. So let me just write this code here on editor. I will just take n equal to any number. Let's take 2 initially. If n modulus 2 equal to 0, I print even. Okay. Otherwise, I use else and I print odd. Okay. Let me run this code. Now for 2, I see the even. That's correct. Let me change it to maybe 3. For 3, okay. It's printing odd. That's right, because 3 is odd number. Maybe check another, maybe 11. You can check as more, I mean, as many numbers you want to, but output will always be right. Again, it's odd, right? So again, we have, and now we have solved the second problem also. And you see how I am doing the problem, okay? How I am thinking, how I am writing this on piece of paper, then trying to implement it, right? So writing the code, I will say, see, I will tell you one thing, okay? You will always think that writing the code is the toughest part. You will always think this, but this is 100% wrong. Writing the code is the most easiest part. the most difficult part is coming up with a solution. That's the most difficult part of like programming. Writing a code, I mean, once you write for 2 3 months, you will remember all the syntax. What is if state, if else, list, for loop, every syntax you will remember in mind. But every time you have to find a new solution for a new problem. That takes time, right? That is the, so I will say 90% is basically coming up with a solution. 10% I will say just programming. Okay, now we go to the program 3. Now this is basic. Again, listen to the question first. Now you check if a given character is vowel or a consonant. Of course, if you remember, like basically English, right? So if you are familiar with English, right, you know that, I mean, which letter is vowel and which letter is consonant. Okay. So the first thing should be that, okay, read the question, and if you, let's say examples also, like C is basically storing the character here. C is the variable that stores the character. So if the character is A, of course the output should be vowel because A is a vowel. If the character is D, D we know is a consonant. So this is two examples I have given here. So again, pause the video here, try to think your solution and try to implement it. Okay, I forgot to tell you one important thing. Sorry. I basically you should also you should also save these programs. Okay, it can be useful. So what you can do is basically click on this files. I will just copy this and I will create a new file here, add file. I will, you can name it, I will name this evenOdd.py. Okay. And basically I will get a new file and I will paste it here and save it. Okay. And this one, I will leave it main.py. I will leave it here itself. But I will basically, I have created a new file here by clicking this plus button here, and I will save the program. Of course, first program I didn't save. That was the first program, right? The quotient and remainder. But again, you can write and save it in a new program. Quotient remainder.py, right? Just save it. Okay. So it's useful in the future for you. Okay. I will do this for all the programs now. So let me create a new file now for this program. Maybe vowel.py. I just name it vowel.py. Okay, we will write the code here in the new file. Okay, so let's again go to the tab again. Okay, let me go down here. So we know what the problem is. Okay, the problem is to find out whether a given letter is a vowel or a consonant. Okay, so the letter can be anything, like it can be A. Basically, we are storing that letter or alphabet in a variable called C. This is you can take any name of the variable, right? You can take C, D, whatever you want to. So storing A. In this case, the output is, of course, this A is a vowel. Okay. If we have C equal to maybe Z, in this case, we know that Z is the consonant. Consonant. Okay. The output should be vowel or consonant. You should print this. Okay. Now, basically, how do you think about this? Now you understand the question, but how do you think about this? Like how to solve this? So in my mind, what comes is that I know that, like, since I know English, I know that basically A, E, I, O, and U, these characters I know are vowels. So basically there are 26 letters, right? 26 alphabetical letters in English. Out of this, these 5 we know are vowels. Now what are consonants? All the others remaining are consonant, we know. So you think you are, are you relating this to the odd even something, something like that? Basically, these are vowels and whatever is left is consonants, right? So you're thinking about this, like something like if else again, right? Maybe in your mind, like basically if the character is like any of this, then it's a vowel, or otherwise it's a consonant. See how again? So basically, if else is very useful when you think something like this. Okay, if this is true, okay, do this. If this is true, do this. If this is true, do this. Otherwise, do this. So in this type of whenever you're thinking logically something like this, you remember always about if else statement. Okay. So in this case, I'm thinking that, okay, if the character is A, or if the character is E, or if the character is I, or if the character is O, or if the character is U, then the answer should be vowels. Otherwise, in any other case, the output should be consonant. So this is the logic. So maybe you can write the code here, maybe if you want to. The code is quite simple. Basically, if we are storing that in C, right? Now, if C equal to A, okay. Of course, there is like, of course, C equal to A. Now you will think that how to write this code, right? Because you will think that how to write. I know that you know the logic now. If the character is equal to A, E, I, O, U, it is vowel. But how to write that? You try to write it on your own, okay, first. Do not see my solution. So what I can do is, basically, I can use OR here. You remember OR, right? In IFES, we talked about OR. So if equal to C equal to A, or C equal to E, or C I, or C equal to sorry, O. These are all in one line, but I do not have a space. Or C equal to sorry, U. Okay. In this case, I will print vowel. Of course, in the else part, print consonant. Okay. Now, of course, remember this. This is equal to equal to. There is difference between like C equal to A. Like in this case, this is assignment. So if you have only one equal to, that assignment. This is basically you are storing A in C, variable C. This is checking equal to equal to if both the left hand side and right hand side are equal or not. Okay. So this is a lot. So you can write this code in various ways. Okay. Let me try to implement this first. Okay. And I will show you like there are other ways also to write this. Or C equal to maybe the store A here. Now I know that if C equal to A or C equal to AE, okay, or C equal to AEI, or C equal to O, okay, okay, or C equal to AEIOU, okay. This is all one line, okay. You see this full line is on line number 2. I will print vowel. Print console. Okay. This is one way of there are various ways of writing this code. This is one way. Also, okay, maybe let's try to print it. Okay, I did find some issue on this site like repl.it. What actually happens is whenever you run this program from here, by default it will always run this file main.py. Whatever content is there in main.py. So it's not easy to run this like this program file here. But it's okay. I mean, we'll copy this code, okay, from here, and we'll paste that in main.py. Okay, we'll paste it here and run it. But my intention was to basically you should create a backup of your programs. It's okay to not create the backups here because here I'm finding some issues like you cannot run this program separately, but maybe you can take the copy anywhere. Like you can store these programs in a different file, create a folder on your system where are you, if you're on Windows, Mac or anything, create one folder and save all these files there, okay? You can save it anywhere, save it on a Google Drive also, wherever you want to save it, or just save it so that in the future you can remember this, like, okay, like you can revise this, okay? But what I will do from now is I will write all the programs in main.py because here it's tough to execute these files, okay? But in your, when you solve, I mean, when you run these programs on your operating system like Windows or others, it should be fine. Maybe I will do one video on how to run this code, like how to write code in Visual Studio Code. I will do that in one video. Okay, I will teach you on that. But let's write all these programs in main.py for now. But do take a backup on your own. Okay. So let's run this code here. Now we should see vowel. Okay. For A, if you see, we see vowel. Maybe change this to B. We should is consonant. Okay. You can change it to anything. Z. Again consonant, A, E, I, O, U, okay, U, it should be vowel, right? You are getting the right output. But see, there is one more way of writing this. If you do not, so basically I've written this in one line itself. If C equal to A or C equal to E or C equal to, okay. You can also write it as, I mean, using a list, you can do this, okay? I'm telling you, you can do it using a list. But I will not exactly tell you how you do this. It's an assignment basically. Try to do the same problem. So this code is quite, if you see, is quite lengthy, right? If you see, like I'm using this equal, this equal, this equal, this equal, right? There is a shortcut way of doing this using list. Like basically, okay, I will give you a hint, okay? So basically what I will do is I will store all these vowels in a list. And then I will see that where this C, I mean, this C is there in the list or not. Like for example, I will not give you the solution here. That code you should write on your own. But let's say I will store A, I, E, O, U in a list. I will store this in a list, okay? Then I will check whichever character is given here, where this character and whether this character is present in the list or not. If this character is present in the list, I will print vowel, else I will print consonant. I have given everything, right? Just write the code for this, okay? And of course, I have discussed about this, like how to check if a element is present in the list. I have discussed this in my list video. So if you can go and revise that. Okay. Sorry, I have discussed this that in if-else video, I think, like how to check whether element is present in the list or not. So do revise that video if you're not remember. Okay, so this program 3 is done. Okay, let's move on to program 4. So let's move on to program number 4. Read the question carefully. Find the largest number among three numbers A, B, and C. You are given three numbers A, B, and C. You have to output which is the largest number among them. So just output which is the largest one, right? Now again, after you have read the question, you have understood the question, try to do it on your own. You can see the input and output, right? When A equal to 1, B equal to 2, and C equal to 0, the output is 2 because among these three numbers, 2 is the largest. Similarly, in the second case, A equal to 2, B equal to 1, C equal to 9. In this case, 9 is the largest, so 9 is the output. So if you understand the question, try to do it with your and try to do this problem on your own. Now let's start again, moving back to the piece of paper again and try to think about this. So basically, I have been given numbers A, B, and C, and I have to find the largest of these three numbers. Now, how do I find this? How do I think this in a logical way? So basically, how do you find the largest of three numbers? Think about it, like this basic logical thinking. Okay. So in my mind, what comes is that okay, what I will do is I will compare like A with B and C first. Okay. Now, I'm comparing A with B and C. Now, if A is larger than both B and C, we know that A is the largest number. So I know that if A is larger than both B and C, so A is larger than B also, A is larger than C also. Basically, A is greater than, we can say A is greater than B and A is greater than C. We know the answer is A. I mean, A is the largest one. Another way can be if now see if this is not the case, if A is not the largest, now we will go to the B. Now for B we will check, we will compare B with A and C. Okay, so basically if B is greater than A and if B is greater than C, we know which is the largest. B is the largest. Okay, again if this is also, if B is also not the largest, we will see with C. Now C we will compare with A and B. Now, if C is greater than A and C is greater than B, we know the answer is C. Okay, this is, I mean, basically we have three scenarios there, three cases there. Again, whenever you have scenarios, remember one thing: if else, right? And whenever you have cases, right? Like if this is true, okay, do this. This is true, do this. Again, remember if else. Okay. So of course, if this is true, the output should be A. If this is true, the output should be B. If this is true, the output should be C. We know this, okay? And so we will write this code something as if A is, of course, maybe you will confuse that how to write this code. I know that basically I will compare A with B and A with C. If both the case satisfies, the answer is A. So we will write A greater than B. Of course, you remember the AND operator from if else. A greater than C. So basically, we want to do AND. I mean, this should be true. Also, this should be true. Only in that case, we will print A as the largest, right? Because both these conditions should be satisfied. And that's why AND is used. If you remember for AND, if all the conditions are satisfied, then only you will go inside this if, right? We will print A because in this case, A is the largest. Now, of course, if this is not the case, what you will use? You will use elif statement, elif, E-L-I-F. You will ask me why I'm not using else here, why I'm using elif, right? Because in this case, I have three scenarios. When you have two scenarios, it's okay to use if and else. But here there are three scenarios. So if you have to use like multiple else if. So when you have to use multiple else if, then use a elif command. Remember, I can go to this else if video and you can see that. Now, second condition can be, now if this is not true, then compare B. Maybe if A is not the largest, maybe B has the possibility. Let's check with B. If B is greater than A and if B is greater than C, In this case, we know B is the answer. Now the next part should we write something like sorry. Okay, one thing I forgot. My video is here, so I'm sure you have missed whatever I wrote here. Right? Let me put it here. Sorry. I'm sure you would have missed whatever I wrote here, right? So you can see the conditions here, whatever I wrote here. I know my video was there, you would have missed this, but you can see I've just written the condition here, right? So the answer, when the answer will be A, when the answer will be B, when the answer will be C. That's what I've written condition here. Okay? Now, okay, let me put the video. So, okay. Now, why I'm using, in the third case, should I use elif or should I use else? This will be a question. Now, see, for this, you can use both. It's your wish. You can also write elif, C. This is else if. In, we write it as elif, but it's basically else if. Okay. C greater than A and C greater than B. Answer is C. This will work. This will work fine. But I have a shortcut way. So we know that if this is the case, this is the answer. Otherwise, if this is the case, this is the answer. But if this true, so basically Python will start executing from here. It will see this condition. If this is both the conditions are true, it will print this, and then it will not check this two. That's how if else works. But if this is not true, it will go to the second. I mean this else if. It will check this two. If this is true, it will print B, but it will not go to this else if. That's how if else works simply. But if this is even false, if this overall if this is false, it will go to this one, right? Of course, we know that if this both of these becomes false, then what is the answer? If A and B are not the largest, we know which is the largest. We know C is the largest. So you can, of course, you do not need to write this. You just write else here, because we know that if A is not the answer, if B is not the answer, then C is the answer. Just use else, right? I mean, if this condition does not satisfy, print C simply. Okay. Now we will write the code. Okay. So I hope you have understood this, like how I written this. So we will basically take A equal to 1, B equal to 5, anything. Or maybe we'll take the input form, whatever C equal written on the left. So if A greater than B and A greater than C, okay, print A, because A is the largest. Otherwise, sorry, B greater than A and B greater than C, then again I told you in the third case you can either use like elif and write like C greater than B and C greater than A. Otherwise, just write else, because we know that if A and B are not the largest, of course C is the largest. Okay, then C. The main important thing is to understand. So my main intention with this program is to understand how if else works. Okay, always remember if else will only execute. I mean, it will go inside only one of the condition. If this is true, if this becomes true, it will print this and directly go to line number 10. It will not see this to if else statement. Okay. Now, if this is true, again, this is true. So execution starts from line number 4. First, Python will check this. If this becomes false, then only it will go to line number 6. If line number 6 becomes false, then only it will go to line number 8. Okay, remember this. I think this program is done. The answer is true. Okay, of course, among 1, 2, and 0, the largest is 2. Just change it to 2, 1, 9. Answer should be 9. Okay, it's quite simple. Now, your assignment is to find the smallest number among three numbers A, B, and C. For the same examples, try to find out, like basically in the first case, the output should be 0 because we are trying to find the smallest number. The second case, the output should be 1. So try to do this question on your own, write the code on your own. Now let's move on to program 5. Again, the question is quite same, but I have made it a bit different. See, now till now we have covered if-else statements, numbers, like variables, how to declare variables. We have covered this. Also, character we have covered, like how to write characters, how to show characters. Now let's move on to program 5, where we will test like the concept of list. Okay. So the question is, this is very interesting question. Find the largest and smallest element in a given list. So you are given a list. Okay. list can have any numbers, like it can have 5 numbers, 6 numbers, and of course the in the list the elements will be numbers. It will be numbers. The number of numbers, I mean, can be anything. It can be 5 numbers, 10 numbers, 12 numbers, million numbers. It can be, right. So you have to find the largest and smallest. Of course, I will write the code for the largest logic. For the smallest, like of course, I will write the code how to find the largest among all these numbers. For finding smallest among all these numbers will be assignment for you, but both are quite same to see. See this input here. If the list has 1, 2, 3, 4, we know that largest element in this list is 4, the smallest is 1. If the list has 4, 0, 3, 5 as the elements, largest is 5. So if the list has elements like 4, 0, 3, 5, the largest is of course 5, the smallest number is 0. Of course, now you understand the question. Try to think on your own, right? Read the question carefully, write it, and try to think logically, write it on a piece of paper, then implement it in Python. Okay, try to do it on your own. Pause the video and do it on your own first, and then see my video. Of course, there is high chances that you will not be able to do this. This is a very new concept, but okay, just give it a try. It's okay. If you are able to do it, it will boost your confidence a lot. Okay, let's move on to the next page. Okay. So the question I know is basically, maybe I can take some input from here. Okay. So 1, 2, 3. There's one more thing. And okay. And now there can be one more thing you should ask in this question. In this first input, if you see, the input is sorted. Sorted in the sense that it's 1, 2, 3, 4. It's increasing, right? In this case, finding the answer is quite easy. And if the numbers are sorted, if the numbers are increasing, like it is increasing, like in the list, the answer is quite simple. Try to think what is the answer here. I will tell you. Basically, the minimum element is always the first element, and the largest element is always the last element. In case the list is sorted, okay, that's quite simple. If you print this element, the first element, or basically the element at the 0th position, that will give you the minimum element. And basically, if you print the last element by using the -1 index, this will give you the largest one. That's quite simple. But in this case, the list is not sorted. I mean, in some cases it can be sorted, some cases, but overall, the list is not sorted. You can see the second example. The list is not sorted. So you have to solve the problem for that case where the list is not sorted. Okay, that's very important too. This also come into your mind. I mean, it may not come now, but in the future it will by practice. Okay. The question is, how do I find? Like, of course, in my last case, I only had 3 numbers, so comparing was easy. But here, how will you compare this? I mean, you will think that okay, I have 4 numbers, so I will compare this with all 3, and if this is larger than all 3, the answer will be 1. Then again, if otherwise, I will, if 1 is not the largest, I will check 2 with other 3 numbers, like 2 with 1, 3, and 4. Then, I mean, if 2 is the largest, I will try that. But again, the question here is that this is here do not, I mean, in this example, I have 4 elements, but you have millions of elements there. Now, how will you compare millions of elements in this way, right? So you have to write some good program, right? You cannot write something like this, right? If, and I'm just telling you, you cannot write this something like this. If a of 0 greater than a of 1 and a of 0 greater than a, and let's say this is a0 greater than a2. You cannot write like this. So there are millions of elements. Will you write millions of like this type of lines? No, you cannot write this, right? You have to think some good solution for this. You cannot write this solution. Even if the solution comes to your mind, ignore that. You cannot write that. Now, once we go to list, we know that, okay, one thing we know in a list is that if you want to access all the elements, like one by one, we know that how do you access that? We know that we have the concept of for loop to access that. At least that should come into your mind. So whenever you see a list, right, for loop should come into your mind that, okay, if I want to do some operation on a list, I can always loop over the list using for loop. Okay, that should come into your mind. But even, okay, that is different thing. But till now we have not thought about the logic, like how to do this. And what is the logic to do this? So, okay. So see, of course we need to compare all the elements. Okay. So one easy way is to basically, as I told you, compare this with all 3. Okay. Then if this is not the case, compare this with all 3. If this is 2 is also not the largest, compare 3 with all the other 3. If 3 is not also the largest, compare 4 with all 3. In this case, you can get. But this program may become tough to write. I'm not telling that this is not a valid solution. Of course, this is a solution and you can try to implement it. But I'm just telling you, it may become a bit tough. But if you're able to implement this logic, it's fine. Very good. But I will tell you a good solution for this, very, very good or an efficient solution for this. So my thinking is something like this. By thinking something like this, that I need to store the max, right? So I need to print the max. So I will store this max in some variable, okay? So basically I will store this max in some variable called mx. Okay. In this, I will store the answer, whatever is the maximum value. So after this, so basically I will print this at the last, and this mx should store which is the largest number in this list. Okay. Now, how do I? So what is the initial value should I put here? Because and it should have some. Because how do you define any variable? You need to put something on the right hand side, right? So thinking about this, one thing comes into my mind is that. It will not come into your mind. But what I will do is I will put A0 into this. I will explain why I have done this. Okay. I will put mx equal to A0. So why I have done this is that, so initially I will think that, okay, this element is the largest one. Of course, this may not be true, but this is, I'm assuming initially that the first element is the largest one. I'm just assuming it, okay? That first element is the largest one. Now what I will do is I will compare this mx with all the other numbers to verify that where my, so whatever I have assumed is right or not. I mean, of course, if I am wrong in any case, let's say initially I know that I assumed that this one is the largest one. Now if I go to the number two, and of course I will be proved wrong because 2 is larger than 1, okay? At that time, what I will do is, I will update my MX, okay? I will update my MX to 2 because my assumption is wrong. I assume that first element is the largest one, but it's not so. The second element, that is 2, is the largest one. So I will update that, okay? So see this code. I will understand this, see this, how I will write the code. So of course, I need to loop over. So initially, I have assumed that A0 is the largest one. But now I will not cover this element one because already I have taken that as mx. Okay, I will start now comparing this with other numbers, that is 2, 3, and 4, and verify whether my assumption is right or wrong. Okay, so for that I will do is, of course, I will iterate from 2, 3, 4. I do not want to check one again. Okay, what I will do is, first I will find the length of this, like length of a maybe equal to, using length function, you can find the length of the list, right? Now I will loop over this for I, variable I in range. I will start from 1 to, of course, length A. So basically, I am starting the loop from this second. Basically, if you remember the position, this is position 1, okay? In indexing, right? This is 0, 0, this is 1, right? Or this is the second element also you can say, right? But index is 1 here, okay? So I'll start from index 1. Of course, in the range, if you remember, this first, in this function, this first parameter is the starting point in the list, and this one is the ending point. But ending point will not always be considered. I have explained this in my list video. Okay. Now for this, so what I will do inside the for loop is I will compare if this element a of I. So how do I access this element? Using AI, right? If AI greater than mx. So in case this is true, in case this element which I am looping over is greater than mx, now I should update the mx because of course this my assumption is wrong here because some element like after whatever I have assumed is greater than that. So I'll update mx to AI. Okay. And at last I will print mx. So this is the answer, but let's again go through this code and understand this. Okay, I will explain this because understanding this is very important. For loop concept is very important. Okay, so I will explain something like this. Let's write a list here: 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Initially, what I did, I stored in mx. I stored this value 1. Whatever is at the 0 index, I stored this in mx. Okay. Now I have found for the second line. I am finding out what is the length of this list using this length function. Okay. The answer in length will be stored as 4. Okay, because 4 is the number of elements. But I know that I mean, I need to compare this mx with other three numbers, these three numbers. So I will start the loop, if you see, from 1, and I will run this loop till the end. Okay. And now how this for loop will work is, initially, I will basically in I, what will be stored in I? So this is the range, right? So if you remember this range function, this range will basically be something like this, a list, okay? 1, 2, 3. Because this basically gets converted into a list which will start from number 1 and it will go till 3 because length a is 4. But as I have already told you before, this 4 minus 1 will be the last number. 4 will not be included in this list. Okay, so basically for I in range, this is all. So initially the in the first case I will be equal to 1. Okay, in the first case, so basically this loop will run 3 times because we have 3 elements in the list. Because basically this range function is something like this. Okay, internally in Python, this thing will be converted to this list. Okay, so of course you can, I mean, you can also write this in something like this: for I in range, sorry, not in range. You can also write this in 1, 2, 3. So this is also fine. This is also correct code. But range is powerful. It's a function provided by Python to do the same thing. So why to write this, right? Here we have 3 numbers, but think about when you have millions of numbers. So will you write the numbers from 1 to 3 till million? No, you will not write. It's not possible, okay? That's why range is useful. In range, you can write range 1. So you can write the million here, right? However zeros are there in millions, you can write that much zeros here, and it will basically store in a list 1 to million, right? Good shortcut, right? With function. Okay, so we know that in the first case, I will be equal to 1. Okay. Now, of course, the execution will go to this line. It will check if AI, in I, what is stored? 1. Okay. If A of 1, so basically if A of 1, what is in A of 1? We know this is 0. In this is index. So this is 0th index, this is first index, this is second index, this is third index in a list. Okay. We are accessing using this index, right? So what is A of 1? A of 1 is 2. Okay. So basically we are comparing if 2 is greater than, what is max? Mx is Mx in a Mx, what is stored is in Mx. Okay, let me write it here. At this moment, sorry, okay, let me also write the value of Mx here. So initially Mx equal to 1 is stored, okay, and now we are equal to I equal to 1. Okay, now 2 greater than 1 because in Mx 1 is stored. It is true or false. 2 is greater than 1. It's true. 2 is greater than 1. So of course, whatever is inside this if, it will go inside the if statement. Okay. Now in if you see Mx equal to AI, basically we are updating Mx equal to A of 1. What is in A of 1? 2. So Mx becomes 2 now. Okay. Now again, control will again go to this again for loop again, because for loop is basically loop, right? It will keep on continuing till the last element. But in the second time, this I will move from 2 to 3. Okay, that's how for loop works. Now in this case, we are at I. In this case is basically, sorry. In this case, sorry. I will become, sorry, I is basically index, right? So I will become 2 now, okay? But the number basically will move to 3, okay? I mean, A of 2 is 3, right? So we have moved to index. So we are iterating over index here. Now I equal to 2 here, right? I mean, basically we are in this list, okay? I mean, oh, do not confuse much. This list is basically this one, whatever range gets expanded to. This list is our A, whatever is A. This is our original list, okay? Always. So this is basically index 1. This is the first index, the second index, this is third index, okay? Do not get confused between both of them. Now we are at I equal to 2 because we are iterating over this, okay? Now I equal to 2. Now again we will go if A of 2, okay? So if A of 2, what is A of 2? A of 2 is 3. Is 3 greater than Mx? Now Mx has become 2 now, right? Mx got updated last time. So now our Mx is 2. Remember this. Now if basically we are comparing 3 greater than 2, whether this is true or not. This is true. So what it become? Mx will become 3 now. I mean, MX will get updated, right? It will go inside the if and update this. Again, it will again go to the for loop. Now we have, I mean, how for loop works. It will go to this element, the last one, 3. Now I will store 3. Now we will check if a of 3. Now what is in a of 3? In a of 3, basically it's 4. Okay. Now it will become 4 greater than mx is updated to 3. So if 4 is greater than 3, true, 4 is greater than 3. Again, it will go inside if and it will update mx equal to 4. So now mx becomes 4. Okay. But again, this is for loop. Again, it will go to it will go again here, basically again to for loop. But this time, this is a 3 was the last limit because in this range, I mean, this starts from 1 and ends at 3. But after 3, there is no element, right? So basically, this for loop will end because if you see, this is length A, right? And we do not have any limits after 3. So this for loop will end. And the control will go to this line print because after for loop ends, this all was a part of for loop because of indentation here, right? There was indentation here. Now the control will go to this line, print. And what is the last value stored in MX? The last value stored in MX is 4. So it will print 4 here. Okay. So I will try to do, if you do not understand anything in this, of course, ask doing comments, but try to go over this program, okay, again and again. Think that how this is happening because this is important for understanding of for loop, right? So try doing this. Now let's write this code. Mx equal to, sorry, first A, 1, 2, 4. Mx equal to A of length. This is a variable. I'm showing this the length of this list. See, I'm not saying this is the only way of finding max. There are multiple ways. I'm just telling you one of the ways. If you do find some other logical solution, do write your own or do write your own code. I will be very happy if you do find a new code for this and do paste that code in the comments so that I will be very happy if you can find that and solve it on your own. Like do post it in comments, others can also learn. For I in range 1, let A if A so, answer is 4 in this case because maximum is 4. Maybe 4035. Take second input. 5 is the output in this case. Maybe take some another. In this case, 9 is the maximum. Okay. Try to do the same for minimum. Okay. Write the same program and same type of program to find the smallest element in this list. Do it on your own. But there is one issue with this code. If you are able to find it, that's quite good, great. There is one issue. Now you'll ask me what's the issue, right? So if you do not have any elements in this, you do not have any elements in the list. And it can happen. And it depends on because the input is provided by the user, right? Sometimes they will not give any input, like there are no numbers. Will our program run in this case? Let's try. Let's try to run. No, it will not run. So there was some issue with this code. The issue was that if we have an empty list, if we don't have any elements in the list, and at line number 2, we are trying to access the zeroth, whatever is stored as a zeroth index, or you do not have anything at a zeroth index, of course, it will give you an error like this index out of range. So how do you take care of this case? There are multiple ways, but for me, one way is quite simple. What I will do is I will shift this line to line after length. Okay, I will check if length A equal to no, length A greater than 0. Only in this case, basically run this code. Okay. Or otherwise, you can maybe if this is not like if there are no elements in the list, just print. I mean, ask user to provide some numbers in the list and just something, right? So basically, what I'm doing here is I have found the length of this list. If the length of list is not greater than 0, if there are no elements in the list, I will basically go to the else part and ask user to provide some numbers. Of course, if there are some numbers in the list, if there are one numbers, I will find the max and print it. Okay. Now run the code. Even on empty list, if you do not have any numbers, it is asking provide some numbers. Let's provide some numbers. One, sorry, I will provide only one number, and the max will be one here, right? Because if you have only one number, the max is that number itself. Now try to do this for find the smallest one. Okay. Now let's move on to program number 6. So I hope you're learning a lot from all the examples that I've given, the way I am explaining you. If you do have any doubts, do put that in comments. If you get confused on anything, because since you are new to Python, you are writing code, writing program for the first time, it may happen. I mean, it happens to everybody. I mean, you may get some errors, right? I mean, so do put that in comments. Okay. Or you can ask me personally. I mean, of course, on Telegram or LinkedIn, right? You can ask me personally. Now, write a program to find sum of program 6. Write a program to find sum of first n numbers. Okay. So basically, again, this is quite basic maths. So you have to find the sum of first n numbers. So if basically you are given a number n, so let's take the example here. If n equal to 3, the answer will be the sum of first n numbers. So of course 1 plus 2 plus 3, the answer should be 6. If n equal to 4, the sum of first 4 numbers. 1, 2, 3 plus 4. What is the output? 10. So basically if n equal to 3, the output should be 6. If n equal to 4, the output should be 10. If n equal to 5, 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5. Whatever is this sum should be your answer. Now I think you would have understood the question. Now, of course, try to do it on your own. Pause this video. Try to do it on, and after that, try to see my solution. Okay. Let me move on to this. Again, I'll just write the example like n equal to 3. Basically, the answer is sum equal to 1 plus 2 plus 3 equal to 6. So you do not have to print this. You have to only print this answer 6. Okay. I'm just explaining it how to find it, right? What is how to find the sum. Okay. Answer should be 6 in this case. Okay. Now again, start thinking logically, okay, on this. How can you do this? Okay, this problem, okay. So n can be anything. It's not that n equal to 3. If n equal to 3, you will think, okay, so what solution is coming out in your mind? Like how are you thinking logically about this, right? So n can be a very big number also, right? N can be some million, like it can be 1,000, n can be 1,500, right? So you cannot make, so if you think that, okay, I can store a equal to 1, b equal to 2, c equal to 3, right? And if I do a plus b plus c, I get the answer. But this works good for 3 elements, 4 elements, 5 elements, right? But when you have millions of elements, you cannot store all the millions elements in a equal to this thing, right? You cannot do that. So now you will think that since we have multiple elements here, can't we store this in a list? Maybe. So you know that I have discussed a sum function when I was covering list. So that will come into your mind. Okay, I know how to find when I have given a list, any list, I know how to find the sum of this list using sum function. So can I convert this to a list? So this may come into your mind maybe this solution. But how do you convert? Basically, you are given only number n equal to 3. So how do you convert n equal to 3 into a list of numbers 1, 2, 3? Because once you use sum function on this list, you know that this sum function will give the sum of all these numbers. It will give you 6. But how do you convert this into a list? That's the first thing. How do you convert? I mean, n equal to 3, how do you convert it into a list? It's quite easy if you think about it, right? So basically, you can take an empty list and append all these numbers in the list, right? Can't you do that? Can't you do that? Okay. Maybe something like this. I will initially have a empty list, like numbers equal to empty list. Now what I will do is, I know that I have to store numbers from 1 to 3. 1, 2, 3. So what I will do is, I will for again num in range. Now from where to where you want the numbers? You want the numbers from 1 to 3. But of course you know that, I mean 4 will not be included in this case, 3 will be included. So write 1 to 4. Then numbers, how to insert numbers in a list? Numbers dot append this num. Okay. If you after this, if you print the numbers, you will get this list 1, 2, 3. Okay. Now once you have got this list, of course what you will do is you will print some numbers. Now this will give you the output. This is quite right. I mean, this is a good approach to do this. Okay. So but basically what you have done is you have created an empty list. There are no elements initially in this. Then you have inserted the numbers 1, 2, 3 in this list, right, from 1 to 4, and then you have printed this sum of this number using this sum function, right? This is one way of doing it. Let's write this code. I'm empty. This is one way of doing it. This is not the only way. Okay. For n is 3. Okay. So we will store like length of this again. Length of n equal to, sorry, you not need to store length in this, sorry. Numbers equal to empty list initially for num in range, so range, where to where? 1 to which number? You think in case of 3, what was the number? The number was 4. For you have to generalize this for n because n can anything, can be 4, 5, anything. So you should write n plus 1. In this case, only n will be taken, 1 to n will be taken, right? Numbers dot append num. At last, we just print sum using this sum function because sum, if you provide because numbers is a list, if you provide a list to some function, it will print you the sum of this. Answer is 6, quite right, right? If you do 5, n equal to 5, the answer is 15 because 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 is 15. You can write any numbers here. Right? I am not going to calculate this, but just write this. Some number got printed. Basically, that's the sum of 1 plus 2 plus till this 10,000, right? That's the output of this, basically this thing, right? You can verify it if you want. This is one way. Is there another way of doing this? Maybe some simple way. Okay, what if I tell you you cannot use this sum function? If I tell you that you cannot use this sum function? I mean, I'm telling you cannot use this sum function to do this. Now, how do you solve the problem without using the sum function? Okay. Okay. Let's think about another solution. Let me write it here. So as I told you, you cannot use this sum function. So remove this here. Of course, since you cannot use a sum function, the list do you need to create the list now? I do not think, right? You don't need to create a list. Okay, one more thing. In this case, there is in a shortcut, you do not need to write these lines. There is a shortcut way of creating a list. So if you just write here, sorry, numbers equal to rate. Okay, I will just write it here. So if you remove this thing here, these two lines is not, and this is also solution, but it is a shortcut solution also. Just this will also give you the answer. Okay. How this works is, so basically range 1 to n plus 1, I told you will store in a list, right? So I'm using this list here to convert this whatever is stored into a list, okay? And then I'm storing that in numbers. So you can print, after this you can print numbers and you will see like what happens. So that's how you can always make a list of numbers. I have taught you in this my list video. Okay. So numbers from like 1 to 1000 are stored. Okay, let's take a small number. So 1 to 5 are stored in this list here. Now I do a sum of this. This is one easy way of doing this, okay? But okay, I told you, you cannot use the sum function now. So let's remove all the code here. You cannot use the sum function. How do you do how do you solve this now, okay? See, this is a very important problem because this concept will be used multiple times in many other problems also, okay? Now I think about something like this, okay? Of course, you may not think in the first attempt, but I'm thinking about this. What if, similar to what I was doing in min and what I was doing in my last case, finding maximum, what if I initially, so my aim is basically to store the sum in somewhere, right? My aim is to store the sum somewhere, right? So what if I take some like sum n equal to 0 initially? So initially my sum is 0 because I do not have any numbers. So the sum is 0 basically initially, right? Now this sum can change. As I loop over the numbers, my sum will change. So I know that in this, and in the case of n equal to 3, I need to do 1 plus 2 plus 3. Okay. So what if I have this variable sum n? What if in this sum n I add all these 3, 1 plus 2 plus 3? Then of course the answer will be stored in sum underscore n, this variable, right? But now how do I do this? How do I store the sum of all these 3 in this variable sum underscore n? Again, you will think about for loop here, because with for loop, you can iterate over all these three elements. And again, like the last case of max, okay. So initially we have assumed that sum is zero, same like before. Now we can sum all these numbers, right? So basically what we can do is we can create a list of numbers, same thing as the previous one, numbers equal to, uh, okay, sorry, we do not need to use numbers here. Why we should create a list here? We do not need to create a list. We created the list in the last case because we were using the sum function. In this case, we do not need to convert. See this. For num in range where to where? 1 to n plus 1. Okay. I'll explain this, do not worry about this. Okay. So it's quite powerful code, but I'll explain you what's happening here. Okay. Again, through example of for loop. So see, with this 10 examples, my aim is to make you understand how if else, how for loop, everything works. Okay. Now, so let's try to understand this. Okay. So what will happen is initially sum underscore n equal to zero. Okay. So initially our sum underscore n zero is stored in this. Okay. What will happen again? I told you this. How will this range? So this range is similar to 1, 2, 3. And internally, Python will convert this into something like this 1, 2, 3. Okay. Now, what will happen is, so you have this basically one. I will write. So initially, how for loop works? Okay. So first, what will be stored in num when Python goes for loop for the first time? In num, this value 1 will be stored in the first attempt, right? In the first case, right? Now num is equal to 1. It's first when for loop is executed for the first time and equal to 1. Okay. Now we go inside on this line after this. Now what we do is sum underscore n equal to sum underscore n plus num. So initially this sum underscore n, whatever this variable is, initially 0 was stored. Now we are doing this, I mean 0 plus, what is num here? Num is 1. So what is 0 plus 1 is 1. So what is the updated value of sum underscore n? It's 1. Okay. Now again, this is for loop. Again, the control will not go to this line. This is for loop. Again, this will go here. And now num will become 2 here. Okay. Now num equal to 2. Again, it will go here, this line. Now again, sum underscore n will become, now what is the updated value of, remove this, what is the updated value of sum underscore n? Now, sum underscore n is 1 now. So 1 plus, what is num now? Num is 2. So sum underscore n becomes 3 now. Okay. But again, for loop will go again here, again here. I mean, again the loop. Now num will become 3 here. Now again it will go inside, and in this case, what is sum underscore n has become 3 here, right? It has got updated to 3. What is num in this case is 3. So num equal to 3, sum underscore n becomes 3 plus 3, 6. Again for loop will go here, but after this there are no elements, right? 1 to n plus 1, there are no elements after this number. Of course for loop will end, it will now go again inside this. Control will go to line number, this print, right? And it will print sum underscore n, it will print whatever, what is the final value stored in sum underscore n? This 6, so it will print 6 there. So you understood it, right? We are using this variable sum underscore n. Initially, we know that sum is 0. We are assuming that there is no sum because till now we have not looped over the list. So sum is 0. Now we start looping over the list and keep on adding the numbers, whatever is in the list, and updating the sum underscore n. And once the once the loop gets over, the final value stored in the sum underscore n is our answer. Okay. I mean, for me, like when I was learning this for the first time, it was very powerful concept. I mean, this all comes with practice, but these are very powerful. I mean, when I learned this for the first time. Okay, and equal to 5 for, okay, so basically it is for num in range. Okay, there is shortcut. I mean, okay, I'll explain. So, okay, let me first write this. Sorry, this should be now print 15, right? In case of 5, the answer is 15. And I take off 10 also. So output should be around 55. Okay, that's what is the output. So one thing I want to tell you is that you can also write the same thing in a shortcut way. So basically this and this are getting repeated here, right? Because you are summing sum underscore and you are summing whatever is stored already in this plus num, right? So you can also write this in a shortcut way, something like this. This will also work. This is also a good right way to, the shortcut way, but right way to do this. The same thing. Answer 55 again. One mistake you will do is you will name this as sum. Okay. So if you name the variable as sum, what will happen is sum is actually a name of a function. You cannot write the variable name as a function name. If there is some function defined in Python, you cannot write a variable name with the same name. This will give you error. Do not do this. That's why I have sum underscore n. That's why I have named this sum underscore n. Okay. There is one more solution for this. What if I tell you there is one more solution for this? Other than these two solutions, there is one more solution to this. Okay, now what is the solution? I will not implement the solution. It's on you to implement the solution. But I will tell you there is a formula for doing this. If you remember, what is the formula for finding the sum of first n numbers from basic maths? Is, sorry, it's n into n plus 1 by 2. This is the formula for finding the sum of first and natural numbers. So can you apply just this formula and write the output there? So basically you have to, I mean, just substitute the value n here, right? And okay, let me maybe tell you. Leave it. Okay, I will tell the answer here for this time. See how to write the formula. Just I will try something like this. Sum underscore n equal to, I know the formula, n into n plus 1. See my use of this round brackets here. Of course, 55.0 is printed here because I have divided it, so the answer will be float. But what I have done is I've just implemented this formula n into n plus 1 by 2. Now, why I have used this round brackets? Just, and so why I'm using round brackets is that, so in my view, so first this should be executed, right? This should be executed first. In this also, n plus 1 should be executed first, then it should be multiplied by n, okay? Then whatever the whole answer is, then should be divided by 2. This also you can write something like this. You do this first, then you write, this will also give you the right answer. Okay, 55.0. There are various ways to write. This is another way of writing this. So this is the third way of doing the same problem, right? So quite interesting, right? One problem you can approach using you have three ways to solve it. I mean one problem, right? You can have four ways also, maybe if you find one, right? So but think like quite interesting, right? Okay, so we move now to the seventh question. So let's move on to program number 7. So the program number 7 is that find the sum of all the numbers in a list. So you are given a list and you need to find the sum of all the numbers. And there is one condition here. You cannot use the sum function. Okay. So of course in a list you can use sum function and find the, so basically you can do something like sum of, let's say, 1, 2, 3, 1. We know that this will give you the sum of like all the numbers in a list, but you cannot use the sum function in this case at least. Now try to write a program without using the sum function and basically get the output. What is the sum of the list? So I have already discussed about a similar problem here in the previous problem number 6, right? 6 and 7 are quite similar. There is slight difference, but both are quite similar. The logic should be quite similar. So I will not solve the seventh program. It will be assignment for you because 6th and 7th are quite, I will say, related to each other. So try to solve program number 7 on your own and not use the sum function to solve it. Okay. Now let's move on to program number 8. Now, this is very important program. Write a program to print all the factors of a given number n. So you have been given a number n and you have to print all the factors of the number n. For example, if n equal to 6, what are the factors of number 6? 1, 2, 3, 6. Okay. What are the factors of number 20? 1, 2, 4, 5, 10. Okay. So basically you have to also include 1 and the number itself in the factor. 2 and 3 are also factors of 6. So you have to print all of this. So whichever you want, whichever way you want to print, you can print it, the output. You can print the output as a list, or if you do not want to print the output as a list, you just want to print one by one, you can print that way also. Okay. So let's now start solving program number 8. The question is quite simple. If you see, you have been given a number n. N can be anything. You have to find out the factors of this, like 1, 2, 3, and 6 are the factors for 6. Now, the first question that will come into your mind is what are factors in maths? So we know that so for any number, a factor is that number which divides that number completely. For example, for 6, we always know that, I mean, 1 and the number itself always will be the factor, these two. Okay. Other than these two, we will always basically whichever other numbers divide this number. See, 2 divides 6. So if you divide 6 by 2, you know that remainder is 0. That means 2 is dividing 6, right? Again, if you do 6 by 3, again, so if you divide 6 by 3, again we know that the remainder will be 0. But what about 4? I mean, where 4, whether 4 is a factor of this 6 or not. Okay. So of course, if you divide 6 by 4, we know that remainder will not be 0 in this case, right? What is the remainder? Remainder will be 2 in this case. So we know that, I mean, basically 4 is not a factor of 6. So that's basics of how to find factors. So you understand the logic here. If you see, right, it's quite simple. If a number, if any number divides this given number n, then that number is a factor of this. So how to write this logic in code? Okay. So of course, I have told all the logic till now. So it's basically you have to, for each number, you want to check the remainder with this number n. If the remainder is 0, I mean that number is a factor, otherwise it's not. So how will you basically do this using code? And also there can be a lot of factors. It's not that, I mean, let's say if you have a number 20, if you have n equal to 20, you will have a lot of factors like 1 will be there, 2 will be there, 4, 5, 10, 20. These all are the factors. Okay. Now, how to basically print this? Like how to write the code for this? How to print this? Now, so now how to write the code for this problem? So one thing I know is that the factor, whatever the factors are for this number 20 or for 6, the factors will lie between 1 and the number itself, right? So you can, so for 20, a number greater than 20 cannot be a factor of this number, right? The factors would lie between 1 and 20, both of these, right? So we know that basically how I can do this problem is I can loop over from 1 to 20, check for each number like from 1 to 20, whether that number is a factor or not. If that number is a factor, I will print it. Okay. This is my logic. So what basically I'm trying to say you is that, okay. So basically I will run a for loop for I in, or you can for num in anything you can write in range 1 to basically this is n plus sorry n plus 1. So basically 20, you have to run the loop till 20. So this should be 21 here, right? Because 21 will not be included. Now basically I will check if n I equal to 0. Then I will print I. So this is just my 3 lines of code for this problem. So what I'm doing is quite simple. I am doing a for loop like for all the numbers between 1 and 20, starting from 1 till 20. Now for each of this number, I divide this I, whichever number is there in this from 1 to 20 with n. So n can be anything. Let's say if n is 6, this loop will run from basically 1 to 6, right? At each moment, I will check that whether that I is dividing this number completely or not. That means whether the, I mean, remainder is 0 or not. If the remainder is 0, I know that it's a factor, that I is a factor. Then I will print the number I. Let's take example of 6. Okay, let's take example of 6. In that case, basically this will get expanded to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? This basically this expression gets expanded to this thing. Now in first case, I will be equal to 1. Okay, I will point to 1. Now n modulus I, basically n modulus 1 equal to 0. Yes, I mean 6 divided by 1 equal to 0, and the remainder is 0. So I will print 1. The answer print 1 will be printed. Again for loop will go again. This time I will point to 2. Now again I will check 6 modulus 2. And 6 divided by 2, the remainder is 0. That's right. Again it will go inside if and print 2. Next we will go to 3. Okay. Basically I will move to 3. Again I will move to 3. Now 3, again it will go inside 6 modulus 3. Remainder is 0, right? 6 divided by 3, remainder is 0. Again it will go and print 3 also. Okay. Next again loop will continue. Loop will go to 4. Now I will check again if 6 modulus 4. When you divide 6 by 4, whether the remainder is 0 or not. No, the remainder is not 0 in this case. So this will not be printed. But again this is for loop, right? Again control will go to for loop again. This time it will move to 5. It will again check if 6 modulus 5 equal to 0. No. Again it will not print I. Again the loop will again go to, again it will go loop will again continue. I will be 6. Now 6 modulus 6 equal to 0. Yes, 6 divided by 6, the remainder is 0. So it will again go and print 6. And again it will go in the for loop, but there are no numbers now. So this for loop will end and the numbers got printed is 1, 2, 3, 6. So you can also try writing this code here also. N equal to 6 for I in range 1 to n plus 1 if n modulus I equal to 0 print time. Okay. See 1, 2, 3, 6 got printed here, right? 15. Let's see 20. So 1, 2, 4, 5, 10, 20, right? So that's all the factors of 20. So that's how you find the factors of a given number n. I'm not saying that this is the best program. There can be better programs than this. For this same thing, doing same thing, there can be more efficient program than this. And if you I mean, try to find out if you can like write more efficient program than mine. I mean, of course, there are solutions which are better than mine. So this was the last problem for this video. So initially, I was thinking of having 10 problems, but then I excluded 2 problems because those 2 problems were a bit tough. So I thought of covering it later on. So I have left it for now. So there are 8 programs if you see in this video, and you should be very good with all of these 8 programs. You should write the code for all of these 8 programs on your own. Okay, for the first time, okay, you can like understand from me. But again, after some time, once you have gone through this video, try to write all the programs on your own, okay, and see that if whether you are doing mistake or not. Okay, practice it on your own. Okay, this is very important. So these 8 programs I will say are very important here. I mean, like this will start you, like this will start your kind of, if you have not programmed till now, this will at least get a start for you, right? You will start writing code, and of course we will solve a lot of problems in the future also. So do keep on practicing this type of problems. Okay, and in the next video, like we will cover, I mean basically we'll cover it tuples in Python. I mean tuples in Python are also very important, I will say, because I mean tuples are like list, I mean, but tuples are also important in Python. It's an important data type in Python. So we'll cover tuple in the next video. So we will again start with the syntax, like start learning some, because we have left some more concepts till now. Like there are multiple important concepts like tuples, dictionaries, we have functions, we have user inputs, we have while loop. This all we will cover after this video. And once those videos are done, we will again start solving problems after that. Okay, because that will be the end of this. Like 5 more videos are remaining after this, and after that we will practice a lot of questions after that, like so that we are able to solve a lot of problems, like we get a lot of practice. So that's all for this video, and if you have any doubts regarding any of these problems, do ask that in comments. Thank you.